Welcome to the Sport Manitoba podcast, hosted by Nolan Cole.
Welcome to episode 16 of the Sport Manitoba podcast. My name is Nolan Cole. I'm the digital media specialist at Sport Manitoba. We're podcasting from our Sport Manitoba building at 145 Pacific Avenue in downtown Winnipeg. At Sport Manitoba, our focus is on supporting and planning sport programs to promote the development of vibrant citizens, athletes, and communities in Manitoba. We're also the main funding agency for amateur sport in the province, with over 65 provincial sport organizations in our building. Not surprisingly, curling is one of those sports, which will be the focus of this episode. Every one of our previous 15 episodes is available on all the podcast apps on your phone, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so make sure to check those out and give them a listen. It's been quite the curling season in Manitoba so far, especially at the junior level. I'll introduce you to a pair of gold medalists from the Pebbled Ice right after a quick look at some of Sport Manitoba's upcoming events and campaigns. The 2020 Manitoba Games, powered by Manitoba Hydro, are just a few months away. The city of Dauphin will host roughly 1,500 of our best athletes from August 9th to 15th. To learn more about these games or to sign up to volunteer, visit sportmanitoba.ca. At Sport Manitoba, we recognize the crucial role that officials have within sport. Keep an eye out for our No Ref, No Game campaign this year, as we'll be sharing real stories from Manitoba officials and what it's like to be behind the call. Remember to always respect your officials, because without them, there is no game. Millions of teeth are lost or traumatized annually during sporting activities. Custom mouthguards are recommended by the Manitoba Dental Association as the best way to protect the teeth and prevent injuries to the soft tissue of the mouth, as well as the head, jaw, and back. Visit your local dental office to learn more or get fitted for your custom mouthguard. Talk to your dentist. Good for you, good for life. After winning Canadian titles earlier this winter, skips Jacques Gauthier and Mackenzie Zacharias both led their Manitoba rinks to gold medals at the World Junior Curling Championships in Russia. Gauthier's Winnipeg team beat Switzerland 7-2 in the final, while Zacharias' Altona-based foursome edged South Korea 7-5 in the gold medal game. It's the first time ever that two Manitoba-based rinks have won the World Juniors in the same year. After a whirlwind season that still isn't over, Jacques and Mackenzie found some time to swing by our building to chat about their recent wins, their curling idols, goals for the future, and what it feels like to be a world champion. Here's my conversation with Jacques Gauthier and Mackenzie Zacharias. Thank you both for coming on the podcast today. I want to say congrats on your World Junior wins, first of all, and why don't we start there? Both of you winning gold medals for Canada at the World Junior Curling Championships in Russia. I want to ask you first, prior to this year, the last time two Manitoba-based rinks won the Junior Worlds in the same year, do either of you know when that last happened?
I don't think ever.
I didn't know it actually ever happened.
You're right. It was a trick question. It's never happened, so congrats to both of you on making history there. It's never happened. Yeah, Curl Manitoba confirmed that for us. So I guess, Mackenzie, we'll just start with you. The whole experience in Russia, how did it feel to have the Maple Leaf on your back?
I mean, it was my first time ever representing Canada, so just getting that opportunity to have the Maple Leaf on my back was absolutely incredible, and I know our whole team felt the same way. We were just thrilled to be there and thrilled to represent Canada, and we just had so much fun with it.
You trailed 4-1 in both the semifinal and final, so not an easy deficit to come back from. How'd you do it?
Good question. 4-1 is not a situation that anyone ever wants to be in curling. I think that we knew what we wanted to do. We knew that we wanted to win, and we knew what we had to do that. So we just really buckled down in the second half of both games, and we were able to come out with the win on those, which was really fortunate.
And Jacques, not quite as much drama for you in the playoffs, right? But I guess how would you describe your week in Russia?
I thought our week was kind of a good indication of kind of how our team worked the whole year. We were a team that kind of persevered throughout the whole year. We were down a lot in games early and kind of came back and made them close. And we lost our first one. We didn't play well, and we got down early in that one and still kind of grinded our way out, but still ended up losing on last rock and then bounced back with the 7-game win streak, lost going into the playoffs. But, for all of us, wearing the Maple Leaf for Canada was something special. I'd been there once before as an alternate, and I got to play 3 games, and just like being on the ice and wearing the Maple Leaf is just, it's hard to describe. Like, it's just a special feeling. You can just feel how important it is. You know what I mean? And so, especially coming back this year as a skip, I got to play in every game, obviously, and it was just, it was overwhelming and awesome.
the city you were playing in, and I won't try to pronounce it, it was actually in Siberia, right? So pretty remote. What was it like playing so far away from home?
Yeah, it was definitely different. It was actually my first time overseas, so just the whole plane ride was crazy. Like, it took us like over 30 hours to get there just in the plane. So that was an experience in itself. But yeah, it was in Siberia, kind of like the middle of nowhere, but it was kind of funny because the city kind of like resembled Winnipeg and the climate was like the same. So it's kind of like a home away from home. But the committee there and everyone there was absolutely fantastic. And like all the people there were so friendly as well.
Were there any like challenges or surprises, things you didn't expect, Jacques?
Yeah, like Mackenzie said, it was actually really like Winnipeg. It just everything was in Russian. The only thing that was really different for us is every time you went into the venue or left the venue, you had to go through like airport security. Like our bags would get checked through, and you get scanned down and all that kind of stuff. And like just comparing it to my prior experience where you're in Scotland, you just walked into the venue, there was no problem. So going through that, then there was like cops always kind of walking around the venue, even if it was like midnight. There's nobody there. We went for like a late night meal, and we were walking by it after that, and there was still cops walking around just in case something was going on. So that was definitely something to get used to. By the middle of the week, we were completely used to it, but it was weird to see it first for sure.
What about the ice conditions? Similar to what you would expect in Canada? Was that a challenge at all, Mackenzie?
We were actually super fortunate to get to play on arena ice, which is incredible. Like, I mean, the whole venue itself, the building was like 2 years old maybe. So just the whole building was so nice, and the decorations in the arena itself was just absolutely incredible. It was such an experience just to get to play on that ice, and it was just so great all week.
Atmosphere was good as well?
Yeah. It was definitely a unique atmosphere. I got to tip my cap to the ice makers. They did a great job, because when Russia was playing, whatever side they were on, the fans were on, and so they actually got a decent amount of people there. Like, I thought it was going to be a completely empty barn the whole week, but there was a bunch of people for a lot of the draws to watch the Russian teams. And the one thing about that, like the atmosphere, is that if you played the Russian teams, you played the fans too, because they cheered when you missed, because they just didn't know about curling, I guess, that much. So I think that was kind of fun for both of us to try to manage that. But it was definitely interesting.
Well, and that's like it was in Sochi, right? Like they had the same kind of problems. Whenever Russia was playing, it would affect the other games on the ice, right? And it gets so loud. Yeah, they were using a whistle at one point, were they not? So.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and Jacques, you touched on this a bit earlier as well. There's always a level of pressure representing Canada. So I guess the question would be, did either of you feel any added pressure because you're from Manitoba as well, and there's such a rich history here in the province with curling? Or did you feel it at nationals as well, Mackenzie, with the buffalo on your back? Yeah,
I mean, whenever you represent Manitoba, even at nationals, you're always kind of like expected to do well. I mean, everyone always tells you to do your best, and that's all that we went to nationals trying to do. But we had a goal in mind going into nationals, and that was to win. And we wanted to do Manitoba proud, and we were really fortunate enough to do that. And the same with the Maple Leaf. Like, when you go represent Canada, you always want to do your absolute best, because like your whole country's watching back home and everything like that. So that's a lot of pressure, even when nobody can really get a hold of you out in the middle of Russia. But we definitely felt a lot of support at home, and we definitely wanted to do our best.
Yeah. How did you kind of deal with that pressure yourself, Jacques? You've been around it a few times at the national level, but just going as a skip on a world stage.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to kind of take a step back first, like the nationals was definitely a very unique experience for us, because we weren't representing Manitoba, we were more so representing ourselves, right, as Manitoba too. Yeah. And we took kind of the pride in representing Manitoba in the fact that, Manitoba, like you mentioned, is such a rich history in the game that just because you get out of Manitoba doesn't mean that the team that lost didn't deserve to go as well. And so I thought that we were kind of playing on behalf of everybody that's ever lost a Manitoba final that could have been the best team in Canada and maybe the world. They just lost to a team that played in the same province as them that were just as good. So once we won nationals, it just felt then we felt the pressure that, we were Team Canada, but we were still playing. We were still our own team. We knew that Tyler Tardy had won the past two worlds, but we were a completely new team. We were just going to try to take it a game at a time and have the same kind of approach and outlook as we did at nationals, because I thought that helped us. Just kind of, we're playing on behalf of Canada, but no matter what, as long as we represent with class and dignity, everybody back home is going to be proud of us.
So obviously very successful seasons for both of you, Canadian and World Junior wins. And I know you still have a couple of events left, but have you had a chance to kind of reflect on your season as a whole and how much success you had? Jacques, we can go with you first.
Yeah. So like I mentioned a little bit, like right at the start, we had a really bad start. All 4 of us on the team were playing new positions to start, especially me skipping. I hadn't skipped in a long time. And then, added the new rule of 5-rock rule. I hadn't really adjusted to that yet. And so I thought the beginning of the year was definitely a learning curve for us. Not only were we not playing at the level that we expected to in men's, but we were also getting beaten badly by junior teams that we expected to be competitive with. Like the better teams in Manitoba really, like we weren't even challenging them. And so we kind of had to take a step back. It really came into fruition. We were playing in Ottawa, which is an invitational spiel, and it's always been like a mini nationals because it's the same kind of teams. That Zacharias team was there as well, and they won that. But for us, we didn't even come close to making playoffs. And so coming off of a year where the year before with JT, we won the whole event, it was really kind of a turning point in our season where we just sat down and were just honest about how we weren't putting the time in to get the results we wanted. And after that point, it just really turned around. I thought we really built off of every weekend. There was just a lot more positivity. People were bought into it. And then it came into fruition at provincials. We had the best week we had by far. Had one bad game in the final, and the team we played, Brett Walter, they played unreal and didn't get 70 breaks, but then we got one. I got a big break and got to nationals, and again, put together a really good week. And so that was basically the story of our year, was did not get off on the right foot, but I got to give the 3 guys in front of me credit. Like, we really battled, we put the time in, and it ended up paying off.
Do you prefer to play third?
Depends when you would ask me that question. If you had asked me that in October, I would have said absolutely, but that's something I'm actually going through right now, just kind of what I want to do in men's next year, because I did love playing third, and especially for JT, but I thought I really kind of got used to the skipping role as kind of time went on, and the more I played, the more I liked it. But it definitely comes with its downfalls, because when you miss it, hurts 10 times harder.
Third's a position where you kind of get every aspect of the game, right? You get the sweeping, and you still get the strategy aspect and the discussion with the skip, right? It's kind of unique, yeah. How would you describe your year, Mackenzie?
For our team, this was our first year together as well. Me and my sister, we played together since I was 10. So, but Lauren and Carly actually moved here to curl, and I guess Carly also moved here for Jacques. Yeah. They're both from the East Coast originally. Carly from Nova Scotia and Lauren from PEI. So we had a unique start to our season. We were kind of getting to know each other. We didn't know each other a ton, so. But overall, we had a very successful season, able to get lots of points in the women's circuit, which was really nice. And we were able just to gel really well as a team. And like I said before, we were really goal-oriented this year. So we knew exactly what we wanted to do and knew what we had to do to get there. And we were really focused all year, and we were able to accomplish that in the end, which was really nice. But it was also really nice to gain a couple of friendships as well.
Okay, so you mentioned playing with your sister, Mackenzie. You both come from curling families. Mm-hmm. So you grew up in Altona, and I'm curious what it was like growing up in small town Manitoba with just one curling club.
Yeah. Before I was 12 years old, I don't think I curled anywhere else but Altona. Just grew up there, curled there every chance that I could get. Fell in love with the sport in Altona, and basically I've been curling with my sister since I started there, which has been really just an incredible experience. She's always been with me, and then my dad's always been our coach. So this was always the dream, getting to nationals and then being able to represent Canada together was just an absolutely amazing experience. And to be able to represent Altona, which I still like to call my home, even though I don't live there all the time, it's just been absolutely incredible. And their support now, too, has been great. They're just all over this whole thing, and it's amazing.
And then you mentioned playing with your sister. I guess, so your sister plays second, Emily, and then your dad was your coach. So I guess, does that make the team dynamic a little bit different?
In a way, I guess it would. But I think we've been doing it for so long, we kind of know how to manage it. Emily and I, like I said, we've been playing together for a long time. So we kind of know exactly how to treat each other as teammates when we're on the ice, and then kind of how to treat each other as sisters when we're off the ice. And we're actually roommates as well, so that actually adds a little bit more to it too. But it's actually worked out really well for us.
Did you always, like playing with your sister growing up, did you always skip, and was she always front end, or how did that
Yeah,
evolve?
it's actually never changed. She's always played second for me, and I've skipped. So we kind of had a little bit of separation between there, but it's always worked for us.
And Jacques, of course, your mom, Kathy Gauthier, obviously well-known former curler herself. She played with Connie Lalaberry, played with Jennifer Jones, and well-known for her TSN work as well. So I guess, what was it like growing up watching her a little bit at the tail end of her career? And I guess I imagine she's one of the reasons you got into it seriously yourself.
For sure, yeah. Watching her, obviously, she won Canadians in 92, 95, and then 05.
Yep.
So I was too young, obviously, for the first two, but I remember very vaguely watching the last one. I was very young watching it with my sister and my dad, but
It's a shot you would remember.
yeah. I didn't really realize how important it was, but I do remember watching it. And yeah, I mean, like, my mom obviously had a lot of success in this sport too, but my dad played lifetime as a men's curler. He just never won. He lost the provincial final in 2002, but he always kicked around the competitive circuit, was a pretty good cash player. And so we both, me and my sister, had a lot of support from our parents to pursue it. And, early when we were younger, we got put in our Little Rocks, and I guess my mom kind of took my sister under her wing because she was going to go into the women's side, and so my dad took me under his wing. And just growing up with that kind of knowledge that they had, because my dad was a skip and my mom was a second, and so my sister played second this year and then I skipped, so we both had whatever we needed. My mom was great with technical stuff, being a second forever and sweeping stuff when I switched to third, and then my dad was great from a strategy perspective. And so growing up, like, I was definitely very fortunate with the access to the knowledge that I had. And just in addition to that, like, my mom, anytime, she had a connection with somebody like a Connie Lalaberry or a Kathy Overton, I was fortunate enough to benefit from their knowledge as well. So.
Is your mom still in your ear a lot in terms of talking strategy with you and that?
Yes and no. I think she's realized that I might be a little bit too stubborn to talk to now, but we definitely still discuss it. Obviously, with her being a commentator, she at home sometimes commentates on the couch, and we talk a little bit about different shots on TV. Or when my sister's playing, I talk about why they wouldn't play this shot, that shot. The biggest thing it comes down to, I think, now is just there's a different strategic point of view from women's and men's. So I see it as more of I see run backs and all that kind of stuff, like, as a shot to play, whereas the girls see a more soft side of it. So that's where we disagree. But yeah, we definitely still talk a ton about curling, and you can't even escape it. Like, even in the summer, we're talking about it all the time. So.
Just before we take our break here, I read your Q&A with John Cullen from Curling Canada. So will you be getting that Maple Leaf tattoo on your calf now that you're a world champ?
I don't know, actually. Like, I never thought that this was actually going to happen. Like, it's you dream of winning Canadians, and obviously, like, you think, maybe you could win a Worlds, but then it, like, I'm sure Mac feels the same way. Like, it happens, and it's just like, what is going on? So I don't know. We'll see. It won't be anytime soon, but once this kind of worn off and I realize how special what we did was, I might be inclined to get some sort of memento of it, yeah.
World Junior Curling Champions Jacques Gauthier and Mackenzie Zacharias are our guests on the Sport Manitoba podcast. We'll be back with more curling talk after a quick break. Sport Manitoba and Doctors Manitoba joined forces in 2013 to launch Fit Kids, Healthy Kids. Both partners saw the need to promote physical literacy as a means to combat health risks associated with a sedentary lifestyle, such as type 2 diabetes and obesity. Doctors Manitoba has been generously supporting Fit Kids, Healthy Kids financially since its inception. Learn more at fitkidshealthykids.ca. This spring, Sport Manitoba is working together with the Sport Information Resource Center to raise awareness about concussions. We want all of our athletes and coaches to know the signs and symptoms of a concussion so that they can be properly treated. Follow along on our social media channels at Sport Manitoba on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and use the hashtag HeadstrongCanada. Sport Manitoba strives to make sport a safe and welcoming experience for athletes, coaches, parents, officials, and volunteers across the province. If you experience any incidents of abuse, harassment, or any other inappropriate conduct, please call our sports support line at 1-877-737-9875 to talk to a trained professional, or visit our website for more resources. Okay, favorite curler or favorite team growing up? Jacques, you first.
I'm conflicted with both of these. So team and curler are different. They're different, but for me, for sure, curler has to be, the Manitoba legends, Jeff Stout and Carey Burtnick. I've gotten to know Carey pretty well over the years. Just my sister play with his daughters, and just talking curling with that guy, it's mind blowing. Just I don't know, just the wealth of knowledge he has. And then Jeff Stout, I mean, what can you say? 11 provincial titles, and so consistent, so good for so long. He came over to talk to us at the banquet after he won Canadians at the men's provincials, and all of us were just like starstruck. We're like, what the heck is he doing here? But then as far as team, I mean, when I was younger, we grew up watching Kevin Martin's team. The year he went back-to-back Briers, they didn't lose a game. And that was when I really kind of understood, how great you need to be to win the Brier, because those guys, like, were just so good. So that was probably my favorite team to watch, because they were just so dominant. The best teams in the world, at that time were like almost all in Canada, and they made them look like junior curlers. So that was definitely my favorite team of all time.
Mackenzie?
That's a tough one. Right now, I would have to say that my favorite team is probably Anna Hasselberg out of Sweden, just because they're literally dominating the world scene right now. Like, they win almost every event that they're in, and they're like playoffs or final in every other event that they don't win. So it's just incredible to see that these young women like all go out there and just compete and do their absolute best like every single week, and it's just exactly what we strive to do. So it's just so inspiring.
That's just interesting that you like a team from Sweden as your favorite. Was there a team in Canada or a player that you grew up watching that you really idolized?
Well, I mean, like coming from Manitoba again, like you got like Jennifer Jones, and like she's been around for a long time. Like ever since I've been growing up, she's always been at the Scotties, and Kathy Overton, and like all those ladies, they're just incredible. And like, I mean, now too, like Tracy Fleury's team, Carrie Anerson, like there's so many great teams from Manitoba to look up to. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm curious about, for both of you, your favorite aspect of curling for both of you. Is it the strategy? Is it as a skip? Is it the pressure of making the draw to the forefooot for the win? Team aspect? What's your favorite aspect of playing the game, Mackenzie?
I definitely love like being able to play with people that I enjoy playing with. Like curling's such like a sport like where you only have 3 other teammates, so you have to get along in order to play well. So I've been able to make a lot of friendships over the years and meet a lot of new people, and it's just been really special, and it's friendships that'll last a lifetime. So just that part of it's been really incredible.
Jacques?
Yeah, I would say like the best part of the game, as far as like the rules and like all that kind of stuff, if you had to pick it apart, it's probably the strategy that's kept me interested for so long. But the best part of the game is definitely like the community, like Mac mentions. Like there's just so many great people within the sport, and I've made like most of my best friends are within the sport. Like even JT that I played with forever, not playing with him this year, we still talk just as much. And I know that everybody that I've played with, I still pretty much keep in touch with, as opposed to, like old hockey teammates and baseball teammates. It's not that close. But in the curling community, like your teammate just like becomes your family. And so that's definitely the coolest part of it.
Did either of you play other sports growing up, Jacques?
So yeah, like I mentioned, I played hockey for a bit and then eventually had to pick between the two. I realized I wasn't going to make the NHL because I was 4'11" and I was a goalie. So my head didn't get past the crossbar, and so people could shoot over me. So that was definitely a challenge, but definitely like curling more. And I played baseball up until a couple of years ago when work got in the way, but that was just strictly like recreational.
Yeah, for me, I played a lot of fastball growing up. Coming from Altona, I still played in Winnipeg, so we were commuting literally all year round, either for curling or for fastball. So eventually, again, like you just had to choose between one or the other because the seasons kind of intertwined. Like fastball practice would be in the winter sometimes, and curling started to creep more into the summer. So just eventually it came time to choose.
Here at Sport Manitoba, we're big on multi-sport and promoting that. Kids playing multiple sports, young athletes, and there's no right or wrong answer to this. But do you think playing your other sports growing up helped you as a curler?
100%, yeah. Learning how to be a teammate, learning like everything sport can show you, it was just incredible growing up. And just keeping busy all the time and keeping active, just all of that really helped like in the multi-sport aspect.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the first thing that Max said there. Just like being a teammate, when it comes down to curling, like we said, it's such a tight-knit community that if you have one person on your team that's playing for themselves, the team doesn't work. It falls apart. So having that, teammate aspect of it, being there for people that aren't playing well, or when you're not playing well, kind of knowing how to put your emotions aside, just do what's best for the group. That's definitely the most important thing that I think I've taken away from other sports. And then, in addition, like I was a goalie, like I mentioned, so, if I let in a goal in, it was my fault. So that helped me get used to skipping if I miss, and if we lose the game, I think it's my fault. It just kind of help me cope with that kind of thing. But definitely the teammate aspect, absolutely.
What would be your advice to even younger athletes who strive to achieve the same success that you've achieved, whether it's curling or another sport, Mackenzie?
Just basically to never give up. Like, as long as you work hard, like, you're going to get there one day. Like, as long as you put in the effort, put in the work, and you love it enough, and you're so, like, if you're passionate enough about it, you're going to get there, and you're going to get your opportunity, and you just got to be ready for it when it comes.
Yeah, it's kind of funny you asked that because, so Mac's teammate, my girlfriend Carly, her dad coaches a young team out of Nova Scotia. They're like 15 and 13, and they just lost the U18 provincial final. And so, I'm thinking about reaching out to him, and I was going to say, like, at my age, when I was, that age, and even when I was 18, I never did well in U18. I never made playoffs. We played with JTE. We thought he had a good team. Just never paid off. And I think that the biggest thing that I would kind of tell young curlers is just not to get discouraged by losses, because that's how you get better. Growing up with Matt Dunstone, Braden Calvert, guys like that, we lost a lot, and it wasn't close. But that's how you learn how to get better, what shots, what misses really hurt you. And so I would say, like, his name's Caleb McIsaac, and, I would say to somebody like him, it's easy to look at the fact that you were one game away from going to a national championship, but it's also interesting that you're 15 years old, you just lost the U18 provincial final. Like, that in itself is an accomplishment. So keeping at it, working harder, and learning from the losses are definitely the most important things that I would say.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so your season isn't quite over yet. You still have one or two events coming up, Jacques?
We both have two.
Okay.
One of them is together. We're playing mixed provincials together. Me, Mackenzie, Carly, and then my old skip JT. So that'll be a bit of a hoot. And then for winning the Worlds, we both got invited to the last Grand Slam of curling, the Champions Cup. So we're both pretty excited about that.
So that mixed championship sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun, Mackenzie.
Yeah, it's going to be something. Fun fact, we're actually ranked first in the event, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Winner gets to go to Canmore, Alberta, so that'll be a pretty fun trip.
Awesome.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with that one. Okay, goals for the future. You guys told me before we started that you're both at U of M in school. What are you taking?
I'm in my third year of kinesiology. But definitely with curling, it's going to take me a little bit longer. Yeah. Like any athlete, you have to take a little bit of a reduced course load just to kind of like balance everything out. Yeah. But it's been really great so far.
And then I'm at the U of M in the business faculty at Gasper. I'm in my fourth year there. I'll probably graduate with the commerce degree with specialization in finance. But like Max said, like taking it a little bit slower than most of my friends there, just because at curling, it's kind of hard to accommodate the time.
And then goals for the sport itself. I remember hearing that Brad Gushu wrote down all his goals, right? Olympic champion, Brier champion. Right. You want to do all these things. Do you do similar things, or what are your goals with the sport, Jacques?
The exact same thing Brad has. I haven't really written them down yet, but I mean, in the short term, for this coming Olympic cycle, my goal is to make the pre-trials, not to get to Olympic trials. I think that's a little bit ahead of where I'm at, but to get to the pre-trials and to kind of solidify myself as not only just a junior curler but a men's curler as well is definitely my short-term goal. And then obviously, in the future, definitely winning the Brier. Just seeing that with Gushu and seeing how much it means to all the guys there is really, really inspiring. And so that's definitely a goal. And then obviously representing Canada at the Olympics potentially.
Mackenzie?
Yeah, same thing as Jacques. Like, I mean, and now after having that maple leaf on the back of the jacket, it'd be really special to get to do that again. And coming from Manitoba and Canada, you never know if that's going to happen again. So that's definitely the goal, either like through the Olympics, through the World Championships. Like, that's definitely the long-term goal. But like Jacques said, the short-term goal is definitely pre-trials, accumulating lots of points and getting our names out there. And just, yeah, like you said, solidifying like our place in men's and women's curling is just really important for us right now.
Before I let you guys go, Jacques, I got to ask you, do you mind if I add you to my spare list for my Thursday night men's league at East St. Paul?
Sure, I got to throw as much as I can anyway, so yeah, why not?
As many reps. Okay, I'll get your number after we're done here.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, guys, thank you both for doing this. Congrats on the wins once again wins in Russia, and all the best with your curling careers moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again to World Junior Curling champs Jacques Gauthier and Mackenzie Zacharias. It looks like those two have very bright futures in the sport. Did you enjoy this episode of the Sport Manitoba podcast? Great. Subscribe to our podcast. It's available anywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. Give us a follow on social media at Sport Manitoba on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you know of somebody who you think would make for a good guest on our podcast, whether it's an athlete, coach, or somebody else involved in sport, you can email me at podcast@sportmanitoba.ca. We do it every month, so keep an eye out for our next episode in April. I'm Nolan Cole. Thanks for listening to the Sport Manitoba podcast.